What if a battle fought entirely in the skies, unseen by the majority of the world, determined whether Britain would survive the storm of war? Imagine a nation teetering on the brink, its cities at risk, its people anxious, while unseen eyes, listening, decoding and predicting, held the fate of millions in their hands. The year was 1940. The Luftwaffe, Germany's formidable air force, sought to crush Britain into submission. Yet, above the roar of engines and the spiral of bombs, an invisible war of intellect raged, a battle of minds that would decide history. Welcome to the skies over Britain, where courage met calculation, and every message intercepted, every code broken became a weapon as deadly as any fighter plane. Hello, I'm Knightley. Today we'll uncover how intelligence, foresight, and unmatched coordination turned the tide in the Battle of Britain. This isn't just the story of planes in combat. It's the story of the hidden networks, the brilliant minds, and the daring strategies that saved a nation from the brink of conquest. Strap in as we explore the secret war behind the headlines. Before the first planes took to the air, Europe was already trembling. Let's set the stage for this momentous clash. By mid-1940, Europe had already been reshaped by the Blitzkrieg. France had fallen, the Low Countries were under German control, and Britain stood alone against a seemingly unstoppable force. The Royal Navy patrolled the seas, while the British Army regrouped and recovered from Dunkirk. Across the Channel, Hitler's ambitions focused squarely on the island nation. Britain's survival was at stake. Not just territory, but morale, sovereignty, and the very idea of resisting Nazi expansion. The Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, was poised for a campaign unlike any before. Its goal was clear: achieve air superiority over southern England, destroy Britain's Royal Air Force, and pave the way for Operation Sea Lion, a planned invasion. The Germans possessed advanced aircraft, from the agile Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters to the relentless Heinkel He 111 bombers. Yet Britain had defenses of its own: radar stations, well-trained pilots, and a command network that could respond with speed and precision. Across Britain, citizens experienced the tension in daily life. Children were evacuated, factories shifted to war production, and volunteer forces joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service. Every day, newspapers carried reports of the escalating threat from the continent. London, Bristol, and other cities braced for what seemed inevitable. Meanwhile, the RAF, despite being outnumbered, prepared for what would become the largest aerial conflict in history. Geographically, Britain presented both challenges and opportunities. Its coastal cliffs and narrow channels allowed early warning of incoming attacks, but also made southern cities particularly vulnerable. Radar technology, still in its infancy, was deployed across the southeast to detect approaching formations of German bombers. Information flowed from these stations to Fighter Command headquarters at Bentley Priory, where commanders analyzed the data and directed intercepts with unprecedented efficiency. On the German side, strategy focused on both destruction and intimidation. Bombing runs targeted airfields, aircraft factories, and infrastructure to cripple Britain's ability to resist. Yet, the Luftwaffe also aimed to break civilian morale, hoping that sustained pressure would force Britain to negotiate or capitulate. Hitler, confident in the supremacy of his forces, believed that a swift campaign could achieve what armies could not: the psychological submission of an entire nation. The stakes extended beyond Britain itself. If the island fell, Nazi Germany would control the Atlantic seaboard, threatening North America's access to Europe and reshaping global alliances. Conversely, a British victory would embolden resistance across occupied Europe and secure a base for future Allied operations. The outcome of this aerial contest was far from isolated. It was intrinsically linked to the trajectory of the entire war. Meanwhile, intelligence networks worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Intercepted radio transmissions, decoded messages from the Enigma machine, and reports from spies within occupied Europe provided critical insights. Britain's advantage was not merely in numbers or machinery, but in foresight. Every decoded order, every early warning shifted the balance in ways invisible to the German commanders, yet decisive in the unfolding battle. Commanders on both sides understood the enormous pressure. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park, responsible for defending London and the southeast, had to allocate his limited squadrons against relentless raids. On the German side, Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring faced mounting urgency from Hitler to achieve quick results. Missteps could be catastrophic. Success depended on split-second decisions, strategic insight, and the ability to anticipate enemy movements. The political context added further weight. Britain's Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, had risen to lead a nation under existential threat. His speeches rallied the public, emphasizing resilience and determination. Across the Channel, Hitler's leadership imposed a high-pressure environment on his generals, demanding results that sometimes conflicted with operational realities. Both sides faced the dual challenges of planning and morale, where a single decision could tip the scales. By August 1940, the situation crystallized. Luftwaffe forces concentrated on airfields and radar stations, probing for weaknesses, while Fighter Command anticipated the coming onslaught. Intelligence briefings highlighted patterns in German attacks, allowing Britain to allocate squadrons effectively despite being outnumbered. Radar, observers, and rapid communication created a web of awareness that turned information into power, setting the stage for one of history's most critical aerial confrontations. This was more than a military engagement. It was a test of strategy, technology, and human ingenuity. Every radar operator, every pilot, and every analyst became part of an intricate system. Britain's survival depended not only on courage, but on understanding and anticipating the enemy. The tension was palpable. A single miscalculation could spell disaster, while one insight might save a city or even a nation. As Europe watched, the battle approached. The Luftwaffe's aircraft filled the skies with threat, while Britain prepared its defenses with unmatched precision. The winds of war carried more than clouds of smoke. They carried the hopes, fears, and intelligence that would determine the fate of a nation. In this moment, the invisible war of minds was as crucial as the visible clash of machines. With the stage set, the commanders and strategists made their moves. The storm was gathering. Next, we delve into the strategic build-up, the planning, preparation, and decisions that brought both sides to the edge of confrontation. As August 1940 approached, both sides meticulously crafted their strategies. For Germany, the objective was clear: destroy the RAF, dominate the skies over southern England, and pave the way for Operation Sea Lion. The Luftwaffe concentrated on massed bombing raids, using intelligence reports to identify airfields, radar stations, and key industrial targets. Messerschmitt fighters provided cover for bombers, while reconnaissance flights mapped British defences. In Britain, Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding faced the immense challenge of defending an island nation with fewer aircraft and pilots than the enemy. His approach relied not on brute force, but on coordination, speed, and information. Fighter Command's network of radar stations, observers, and command centers allowed rapid interception of incoming formations. Every pilot rotation, every aircraft deployment was carefully calculated to maximize effectiveness against a numerically superior foe. The German command structure placed Hermann Göring in charge of the Luftwaffe, while Hitler exerted political pressure for rapid results. Strategic disagreements emerged. Some advocated targeting airfields and radar installations first, while others urged bombing London to break civilian morale. These decisions would prove pivotal, influencing both operational effectiveness and morale on each side. Britain's advantage lay in intelligence. Codebreakers at Bletchley Park had begun decrypting German Enigma communications, providing insights into Luftwaffe plans. Radar operators along the coast formed the Chain Home system, detecting incoming raids at distances of up to 120 miles. Information flowed from observation posts to sector stations, where controllers directed squadrons in real time. This combination of technology and analysis would give the RAF a critical edge. Training became a strategic weapon. RAF pilots underwent rigorous preparation, focusing on dogfighting techniques, navigation, and formation flying. Experienced pilots mentored newcomers, ensuring that even those with minimal combat exposure could perform under extreme pressure. On the German side, rapid Luftwaffe expansion stretched training programs thin, producing capable but less experienced aircrews in some units, a factor that would influence outcomes during intense engagements. Aircraft technology played a central role in planning. The Spitfire, with superior agility, and the Hurricane, robust and reliable, were British mainstays. German Messerschmitt Bf-109s excelled at speed and climb rate, while bombers like the Heinkel He-111 carried heavy payloads. Both sides studied aerial tactics, integrating formations, escort strategies, and altitude advantages into detailed operational plans. These decisions dictated how battles would unfold in the skies. Logistics and maintenance were equally vital. Fuel, ammunition, spare parts, and aircraft readiness determined the RAF's ability to sustain defense over multiple days. British ground crews worked tirelessly to repair damaged planes and rotate pilots efficiently. Germany, projecting power across the Channel, faced extended supply lines, making precision in timing and coordination critical. Any lapse could allow the enemy to strike with devastating effect. Commanders used deception as part of their strategy. The RAF occasionally simulated squadron movements to mislead Luftwaffe reconnaissance. Similarly, the Germans tested smaller raids to assess defenses, probing radar coverage and pilot response times. These moves created a subtle chess game before the main battle, where miscalculation by either side could provide a decisive advantage. Psychological preparation also shaped strategy. British leadership, including Churchill, emphasized morale, ensuring pilots and citizens understood the stakes. RAF squadrons were briefed on the importance of every sortie, instilling a sense of duty and purpose. German commanders balanced confidence with the need to maintain discipline under pressure, aware that early failures could erode both morale and effectiveness. Intelligence meetings became daily rituals. Dowding and his staff reviewed radar data, pilot reports, and decrypted messages to anticipate Luftwaffe objectives. Each intercept led to a new allocation of squadrons, altitude assignments, and patrol routes. Germany's intelligence, while advanced, lacked the same real-time coordination, creating small but critical gaps that Britain could exploit. As August progressed, the first major Luftwaffe formations approached southern England. Commanders made final adjustments, reviewing contingency plans and rehearsing scenarios. Every aircraft took off knowing the risks, every pilot aware that strategy and foresight might determine survival. The skies were primed for confrontation, yet the battle's outcome remained uncertain, poised between planning and execution. The stage was now set for the aerial clash. Germany's plan for rapid domination met Britain's defensive web of intelligence, radar, and strategic foresight. The coming weeks would test not only aircraft and pilots, but the very system of command and analysis that had been painstakingly developed. A storm was approaching, a battle where brains might outweigh brawn and calculation could be as deadly as firepower. With strategy finalized, the first bombs and fighters entered British airspace. Next, we move into the heat of action, the clash where intelligence, planning, and courage collided in the skies. On the morning of August 13, 1940, the first significant waves of Luftwaffe bombers and fighters crossed the Channel. Early radar warnings alerted Fighter Command, and squadrons scrambled to intercept. The skies over Kent, Essex, and Sussex became a theatre of precision, as British Hurricanes and Spitfires rose to meet the approaching formations. Timing, coordination, and rapid decision-making became immediately decisive. German bombers maintained tight formations, relying on Messerschmitt escorts to shield them from interception. The Luftwaffe's strategy emphasized speed and concentrated firepower, targeting airfields and radar stations. However, British pilots used altitude, maneuverability, and surprise to disrupt the formations, forcing the Germans to scatter or abort attacks. Every sortie became a dynamic test of skill and planning. Ground crews at RAF stations remained on constant alert, refueling and rearming aircraft while tracking enemy positions on radar screens. Controllers at sector stations directed squadrons to intercept at optimal angles, conserving limited resources. Communication lines, both radio and telephone, were lifelines. One delay or misreport could compromise an entire defense. As the battle intensified, German bombers pressed on, dropping payloads over strategic targets. Airfields suffered damage, but quick repairs and coordinated defenses prevented complete destruction. Radar stations, despite being primary targets, remained largely operational, providing continuous intelligence to command centers. Britain's ability to sustain the fight reflected meticulous preparation and resilient infrastructure. RAF pilots, often outnumbered, relied on teamwork. Formation flying allowed smaller squadrons to cover broader areas, intercepting multiple waves of enemy aircraft simultaneously. Spitfires engaged faster Messerschmitts, while Hurricanes targeted bombers. The effectiveness of these tactics highlighted the importance of planning, discipline, and real-time intelligence in determining the outcome of aerial encounters. The Luftwaffe faced unexpected challenges. Weather conditions, including sudden clouds and shifting winds, affected visibility and coordination. Bombers occasionally lost their formations, leaving them vulnerable to interception. British intelligence, anticipating these weaknesses, adjusted squadron deployments dynamically. Every pilot and controller understood that even a minor advantage could decide a mission. Communications played a pivotal role. Radar operators relayed real-time positions, while pilots reported enemy movements, creating a feedback loop that enhanced situational awareness. German reliance on centralized commands made rapid adaptation more difficult. The British advantage in information flow allowed smaller forces to maximize impact and respond flexibly to evolving threats. By late August, the Luftwaffe had shifted strategy, focusing on sustained raids rather than single attacks. Targeting infrastructure and cities aimed to degrade operational capacity and morale. The RAF, adapting to the change, increased sorties and repositioned squadrons strategically. Coordination, intelligence, and endurance became as important as individual bravery in determining the unfolding battle. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park and his team exemplified leadership under pressure. Decisions about squadron rotation, altitude deployment, and engagement priorities were constantly revised based on new intelligence. Meanwhile, Goering pushed for more aggressive strikes, unaware that Britain's radar network and fighter command coordination were neutralizing many attacks before they could achieve maximum effect. The intensity of August and September raids escalated. Both sides adapted, testing tactics, formations, and strategies. German bombers attempted night raids to evade radar, while the RAF refined interception patterns. Each engagement became a learning experience, where intelligence and anticipation proved as decisive as firepower. The battle was more than a physical contest. It was a duel of information and foresight. Every decoded message, every radar plot, and every rapid decision shaped outcomes. While the Luftwaffe relied on numbers and momentum, Britain's advantage lay in a systematic network that converted raw data into action, turning intelligence into a weapon. By mid-September, the pressure intensified. German forces faced logistical strain, pilot fatigue, and the persistent disruption of British defenses. British squadrons, although stretched thin, maintained operational effectiveness through rotation, careful resource management, and predictive deployment. The clash reached a stage where the cumulative effect of intelligence, planning, and adaptability would soon determine which side would seize the advantage. As the air campaign continued, civilians witnessed the intensity from below. Anti-aircraft measures, air raid sirens, and the movement of squadrons overhead became part of daily life. Yet, it was the invisible mechanisms, radar plots, command coordination, and encrypted intelligence that dictated the real flow of the battle. These hidden elements proved decisive in the unfolding drama. The clash was far from over, but early signs suggested that brute force alone could not secure victory. The battle had become a test of endurance, strategic foresight, and the ability to anticipate and respond. Every sortie, every interception, and every command decision carried consequences that would echo far beyond the skies of southern England. In the midst of relentless air raids, one decisive moment would shift the balance. Next, we uncover the turning point, the moment intelligence, strategy, and circumstance combined to favor Britain. By early September 1940, the Luftwaffe had shifted focus from RAF airfields to bombing London in an effort to break civilian morale. This strategic change, later called the Blitz, inadvertently altered the course of the battle. British commanders had anticipated attacks on critical infrastructure, but the sudden change in German targets allowed Fighter Command to regroup, repair, and reallocate squadrons more efficiently. Air Vice Marshal Keith Park and his team seized the opportunity. By concentrating squadrons over southern England, rather than dispersing them across multiple airfields, the RAF maximized the defensive impact of each sortie. Radar operators fed real-time intelligence, allowing controllers to direct aircraft precisely where they were needed. This integration of technology, analysis, and human judgment became the turning point in the campaign. German bombers, now attacking cities, faced greater resistance from exhausted but alert British pilots. Messerschmitt escorts could not cover every bomber adequately, and losses began to mount. The shift in strategy, combined with Britain's intelligence advantage, began to tilt momentum. Historian Andrew Smith later commented, "The Germans underestimated the synergy between radar, codebreaking, and tactical command. It became the fulcrum on which Britain's defense pivoted." Bletchley Park's efforts, though not fully revealed at the time, provided another crucial layer. Intercepted Luftwaffe communications informed British leaders of enemy intentions, squadron rotations, and formation tactics. While pilots engaged in dogfights above southern England, analysts on the ground decoded patterns that allowed more precise deployments and preemptive countermeasures, magnifying the effectiveness of limited resources. Weather also played a subtle but critical role. Shifting clouds, sudden rain, and fog disrupted Luftwaffe formations, further exposing bombers to interception. British pilots, familiar with local conditions and supported by radar tracking, exploited these environmental factors. The combination of planning, intelligence, and adaptability made a decisive difference in engagement outcomes. September 15, 1940, is now remembered as a pivotal day in the Battle of Britain. Known to historians as Battle of Britain Day, Luftwaffe attacks reached unprecedented scale, but British defences met the challenge effectively. Squadrons were directed to intercept at optimal points. Radar data guided tactical positioning, and German losses mounted. The day demonstrated that coordinated intelligence could counter numerical superiority. Command decisions during this period highlighted the interplay between strategy and information. Dowding resisted political pressure to commit squadrons en masse, understanding that conservation and tactical deployment mattered more than brute force. Park executed rapid rotations, ensuring experienced pilots remained engaged, while newcomers gained exposure without catastrophic risk. This balance proved decisive in sustaining long-term defense capability. The Luftwaffe, pressured by Goering and Hitler to maintain offensive momentum, failed to adjust quickly to British intelligence and adaptability. Repeated attacks on cities, while devastating in impact, removed focus from strategic objectives. Meanwhile, RAF squadrons, benefiting from integrated radar and intelligence coordination, achieved a force multiplication effect. Fewer pilots and aircraft achieved disproportionately high results. Experts note that intelligence, more than individual heroism, became the fulcrum of victory. Every decoded message, radar plot, and real-time directive allowed British forces to anticipate enemy movements, concentrate strength, and exploit German miscalculations. The turning point was not a single dogfight, but a systemic advantage that transformed situational awareness into operational dominance. By late September, Luftwaffe losses had escalated, pilot fatigue increased, and operational momentum faltered. The German command recognized the unintended consequences of shifting strategy. Meanwhile, Britain's air defense system, pilot rotation, radar guidance, and intelligence-led deployment remained cohesive and highly effective. The balance had irrevocably shifted in favor of the defenders. The turning point revealed the interdependence of technology, planning, and human judgment. Radar allowed early detection, code-breaking revealed intentions, and commanders made timely decisions. Without one of these elements, success might have been compromised. The battle underscored that warfare was evolving. Intelligence and anticipation could outweigh sheer numerical or technological superiority. As historians reflect, the events of September 15th represent a moment where the invisible war, the battle of minds, information, and foresight, determined visible outcomes. After this day, the Luftwaffe's confidence waned, and Britain began to consolidate its defensive advantage. The tide had turned. Victory was now a matter of endurance, strategy, and continued intelligence mastery. The turning point's lesson extends beyond tactical engagements. It highlighted the importance of decision-making under pressure, the integration of technology and human analysis, and the capacity to adapt to unforeseen changes. For Britain, the moment validated years of preparation and coordination, proving that strategic foresight can alter history even in the face of overwhelming force. With momentum shifting, the consequences of the turning point began to unfold. Next, we examine the aftermath, the impact on both sides, the cost of the campaign, and how this decisive moment influenced the remainder of World War II. By October 1940, the Luftwaffe had shifted away from large-scale daylight raids. British defences had held firm, preserving key airfields and radar installations. The RAF maintained operational readiness while German bomber and fighter losses mounted. The immediate consequence was clear. Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain, was indefinitely postponed. Strategic initiative had passed to the defenders. The human dimension was profound. While civilian casualties occurred, the coordinated air defense minimized widespread disruption to essential infrastructure. Factories remained functional, vital transport networks stayed operational, and morale, though tested, remained resilient. Communities adapted to air raids, and the shared experience fostered a collective determination that would define Britain's wartime spirit. Dorough squadrons had flown thousands of sorties. Hurricanes and Spitfires destroyed hundreds of enemy aircraft, with pilot skill amplified by coordination, intelligence, and radar guidance. British forces were stretched thin but managed resources effectively, rotating pilots and maintaining equipment readiness. This demonstrated that strategy and foresight could offset numerical inferiority. For Germany, losses were significant. Luftwaffe pilots suffered fatigue, and aircraft attrition affected operational capability. Morale waned as repeated raids failed to achieve decisive results. Strategic objectives, such as establishing air superiority and crippling British defences, remained unmet. The campaign illustrated the limits of numerical strength when facing a well-prepared, intelligence-driven adversary. Intelligence networks proved decisive in the aftermath. Bletchley Park's decryption of Enigma messages allowed continued anticipation of Luftwaffe movements. Radar coverage remained intact, supporting persistent surveillance and rapid tactical deployment. The integration of human analysis, technology and communication sustained Britain's operational advantage well beyond the immediate battle. The Battle of Britain also influenced broader military planning. Allies observed how information superiority, coordination, and technology integration could compensate for fewer forces. The campaign validated the principle that effective command and control, coupled with real-time intelligence, can be a decisive force multiplier in modern warfare. Casualties, while tragic, were described factually in operational terms. RAF losses were carefully mitigated through rotations and reinforcement. Luftwaffe losses, both in aircraft and trained personnel, imposed lasting operational constraints. The aftermath revealed a stark lesson. In prolonged aerial campaigns, endurance and intelligence often outweigh immediate offensive power. Economically and industrially, Britain absorbed attacks without critical disruption. Air raids did not halt production of aircraft, munitions, or essential supplies. Repairs to damaged airfields and radar stations were rapid, demonstrating organizational resilience. This capacity for adaptation reinforced the strategic message: survival was contingent on preparation, coordination, and strategic insight. Morale and symbolism were equally significant. The victory validated leadership, strategy, and civilian resolve. Prime Minister Churchill's speeches framed the battle as a turning point, emphasizing determination, courage, and the nation's collective commitment. The narrative reinforced confidence and inspired allied nations, signaling that Hitler's forces could be resisted successfully. The consequences extended beyond Britain's borders. The Luftwaffe's failure prevented German consolidation of Western Europe, and secured Britain as a staging ground for future Allied operations. Control of the skies had strategic implications, affecting supply lines, potential invasion plans, and diplomatic calculations. Britain's survival directly influenced the trajectory of World War II. Strategic lessons emerged clearly. Concentration of forces, integration of intelligence, and use of technology, radar, communication networks, and code-breaking proved decisive. Coordination between units and rapid response to shifting enemy tactics highlighted the importance of flexible command structures. The battle reinforced that preparation and foresight could decisively influence outcomes. In sum, the aftermath of the Battle of Britain combined tactical, operational, and symbolic victories. British forces preserved the island, maintained morale, and demonstrated that intelligence-led strategy could counter superior numbers. The price was measured not only in material terms, but in the discipline, endurance, and collective effort of pilots, analysts, and civilians alike. With the battle concluded, we turn to reflection and analysis. What leadership, technology, and intelligence lessons emerged? How did this seminal moment shape the future of warfare? The Battle of Britain offers a rare case where intellect, planning, and foresight played as crucial a role as firepower. Analysts and historians agree that the integration of radar technology, code-breaking, and tactical command structures created an unprecedented advantage. The RAF's ability to anticipate Luftwaffe movements transformed limited forces into an efficient, lethal defensive system. Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding's leadership exemplified strategic patience and clarity under pressure. Unlike Goering, who succumbed to political urgency, Dowding prioritized sustainable defense over immediate offensive action. By conserving pilots, rotating squadrons, and relying on intelligence-driven deployment, he ensured the RAF could endure prolonged attacks without catastrophic attrition. Radar, though primitive by modern standards, provided a revolutionary edge. Early detection allowed squadrons to intercept formations before they reached targets, effectively multiplying combat effectiveness. Observers and sector controllers translated radar data into actionable orders, creating a seamless flow of information that compensated for Britain's numerical inferiority. Bletchley Park's decryption efforts further amplified Britain's advantage. While pilots engaged in air combat, analysts decoded messages that revealed Luftwaffe plans, formation structures, and target priorities. This intelligence allowed preemptive countermeasures, demonstrating the transformative power of information superiority in modern conflict. The battle also highlighted the importance of flexible command. Keith Park's sector-based control enabled localized decision-making, responding to real-time developments without waiting for centralized approval. This adaptability contrasted sharply with the Luftwaffe's rigid hierarchy, where delays in orders often reduced operational effectiveness. Leadership extended beyond strategy. It included morale management. British leaders, from commanders to political figures, maintained civilian confidence and pilot resilience. Clear communication of stakes, combined with tangible operational successes, reinforced trust in command structures and inspired sustained effort under pressure. Technological integration proved decisive. Aircraft performance mattered, but so did the orchestration of multiple systems: radar, radio communication, intelligence, and pilot coordination. Each component amplified the others, creating a cohesive defensive network capable of absorbing attacks and responding dynamically. Comparative analysis shows that numerical superiority alone could not secure victory. Luftwaffe forces, though numerous and well-equipped, failed to anticipate or counteract Britain's systemic advantages. Intelligence-driven coordination, rapid feedback, and adaptable tactics consistently neutralized German advantages in both firepower and manpower. Historians emphasize that the Battle of Britain marked a turning point in modern warfare. It demonstrated that information management, strategic patience, and technological integration could outweigh brute force. The principles observed, anticipation, adaptability, and command cohesion, remain studied in military academies to this day. The battle also offers lessons in human resource management. Pilot rotation, training, and mentorship ensured sustainability. Even inexperienced pilots could perform effectively due to structured guidance, a testament to the importance of preparation, planning, and institutional resilience in high-stakes conflict. Civilians, too, played an indirect strategic role. Their endurance under air raids allowed infrastructure and operational capabilities to remain functional. Public morale became an operational factor. Successful defense reinforced confidence, which in turn sustained military effectiveness, a reminder that strategy extends beyond the battlefield. Ultimately, the Battle of Britain illustrates a fundamental principle. Warfare is increasingly a contest of information, foresight, and coordination. Intelligence is not merely supportive, it is decisive. The integration of technology, leadership, and human judgment created a defensive system whose impact far exceeded the sum of its parts. As we reflect, the campaign underscores the evolution of strategy. Leaders who combined patience, intelligence utilization, and adaptive command achieved results that numbers or weapons alone could not. The lessons resonate beyond aviation, influencing doctrine, operational planning, and the modern understanding of military effectiveness. Having analyzed the lessons, we now close this chapter with a cinematic ending, tying together the battle's narrative and previewing the next story of World War II mastery. As the skies over Britain cleared, the intensity of the Battle of Britain began to fade, but the echoes of courage, strategy, and foresight lingered. This was not a victory measured solely in planes destroyed or sorties flown. It was a triumph of intellect, coordination, and human determination. Britain had endured, and in doing so, had altered the course of the war. Pilots returned to bases, radar operators continued their vigilant monitoring, and analysts at Bletchley Park persisted in decoding enemy communications. Every individual, from the youngest pilot to the most experienced commander, contributed to a system greater than the sum of its parts. The battle's narrative was written not only in the skies, but in the silent halls of intelligence and strategic planning. For Germany, the campaign marked a sobering lesson. Even a powerful, well-equipped force could be thwarted by adaptive strategy and superior information. The Luftwaffe's failure to achieve decisive air superiority underscored that modern conflict demanded more than numerical strength. It required anticipation, precision, and systemic integration of intelligence and resources. The legacy of the Battle of Britain extended beyond immediate outcomes. It fortified the resolve of a nation, provided a template for Allied defensive operations, and demonstrated that technology and intelligence could counter superior numbers. Every radar station, decoded message, and carefully directed squadron reinforced a principle that would shape warfare for decades. Historians and strategists alike emphasize that the battle was a turning point, not only for Britain, but for the entire Allied campaign. Intelligence became a force multiplier. Leadership and coordination proved decisive. Endurance and adaptability determined the trajectory of the conflict. In essence, the Battle of Britain revealed a fundamental truth. Wars could be won as much by minds as by machines. As we look back, the cinematic drama of this story emerges not from destruction, but from the orchestration of human ingenuity. Spitfires gliding through the clouds, radar blips translating into rapid decisions, pilots rotating seamlessly in combat. All these elements combine to form a narrative of strategy, courage, and resilience. The Battle of Britain invites reflection on the broader meaning of warfare. It teaches the importance of preparation, foresight, and the integration of technology with human judgment. The sacrifices made, the discipline displayed, and the strategic brilliance observed serve as timeless lessons, reminding us that victory often arises from the unseen, methodical application of knowledge. Thank you for joining me, Knightley, in uncovering how intelligence, strategy, and determination converged to secure Britain's skies. If this story inspired you, please comment your thoughts, subscribe for future episodes, and share this journey with others eager to explore history's pivotal moments. Next time, we turn to the masterful mind behind one of the most audacious operations of World War II. Eisenhower, mastermind of D-Day. Witness how planning, leadership, and precision shaped the largest amphibious invasion in history. See you in the next video.